Hello again, it's Marilyn Hawes here with Unprecedented TV for my show Heart and Soul, and you'll find us on YouTube under Unprecedented TV if you put that in. I'm also CEO of Freedom from Abuse, which is a charity seeking to prevent child abuse and in fact any other abuses that are in society, of which there are so many these days. But for Heart and Soul, I invite anyone who's got a very interesting job that somebody might like to learn a bit more about, or a really traumatic story that you think needs more airtime than 5 minutes on one of the other media channels, and you have an hour to talk to me. So if you have a situation you want to discuss and think, oh, I'd like to get out there, then please do contact me, Marilyn Hawes on Unprecedented TV. I quite like to kick the elephant out the room, so nothing's too difficult to hear. But today I want to welcome a lady that does an enormous amount of great work for a charity, and this is Lucy Marsh, the Communications Director for the Family Education Trust. So hello Lucy, thank you very much for your I know you're very busy. I know you're uber busy.
Hi Marilyn, thank you. It's nice.
No,
nice,
do you know, I can't remember how I found you or found the Family Education Trust. It must have been about 10 years ago, and I was looking for doing my training for families, right? And I came across the Family Education Trust, and I spoke a lot to Norman Wales, and he sadly passed away, didn't he, with COVID. And I got this book, I found it this morning. I was very interested. Do you know what interests me more? And if I can get this in first for you to comment on, is in this book, everyone watching, it was published in 2017, but the research for this book, Unprotected, the normalisation of underage sex, exposing children and young people to the risk of sexual exploitation. Now, this book focuses on case studies. Now, listen, you know what's going on with county lines. Torbay 2013, Liverpool 2013, Rochdale 2013, Rotherham 2014, Thurrock 2014, Oxfordshire 2015, Hampshire 2015, Bristol 2016. Now on the back of the book, Professor David Petton, who from Nottingham University Business School, wrote, "The report is utterly damning," which it is because I've read the book. "A clear picture emerges of a culture in which underage sexual activity has come to be viewed as a normal part of growing up and seen relatively harmless," right? Goes on to say, "It is of the utmost importance that the government takes the findings of this report seriously and undertakes an urgent review of its approach to confidential sexual health services." So where are we at with that, Lucy? Because I can't see a lot of change.
No, we haven't had any change. In fact, I would say that probably the situation's even worse because of the provision of contraceptives, the contraceptive pill. The government are now making that even easier, that you can go and get that from the pharmacist. So. And the legislation includes children under 16 being able to get that without even seeing a GP.
See, I mean, how do you feel about it? I mean, your Family Education Trust, you must be pretty appalled by that because you can't consent under 16, or, you know, or do you think in your life work, well, it's best they don't get pregnant?
Well, the thing is, the normalisation of underage sex has basically completely undermined the age of consent. So effectively, government policy in terms of prosecution of sex offences and how the NHS operates basically accepts that children aged 13 to 15 can consent. And so that
You're breaking up. Sorry. You're breaking up. That's better. You're breaking up.
So it makes a mockery of seeing people.
Yes, absolutely.
And did we lose each other for a moment?
It's terrible, isn't it? I mean, you've recently done conference, haven't you? And you sent me on Eventbrite, you sent me the details of the conference. And goodness me, you had some really impressive speakers there.
Oh, yeah, it's actually upcoming. It's on the 6th of May, so it hasn't happened yet. So if anybody wants to come, there's still time to book.
Oh, sorry, I only had the times. I thought these people had actually spoken. When is the conference, Lucy?
No, it's Saturday the 16th of May in central London. So there's details on our website if you look at events.
And you know, you've got Suella Braverman talking, the indoctrination of children in schools, absolutely right. You've also got lovely lady who I really admire, Miriam Cates, who I think is absolutely brilliant, and others. I mean, and I think the thing that caught it's all caught my eye. I think it's amazing, but a gentleman called Dr. Tony Wojcinski, and I think I can't remember the other people here, but the title is How Schools Have Sleepwalked into Sanctioning Pornography. I would agree they have done this. Can you explain how this has come to be? How do you...
Well, unfortunately, the pornography part of sex education. So there are big sexual health groups like Brooke, for one, which is funded in a large part by the government. So I think last year, in terms of government contracts and grants, they were actually received about £7 million of public money. And they're very much a sex positive organisation. And they believe that teenagers should be able to have autonomy over their sexual health, and this includes under 16s. And they basically promote sexual promiscuity, basically, and they say that casual sex is very valid, and they're also completely captured by gender ideology. I saw an email from them recently that was talking about all kinds of sex being valid, and it talked about people with a vagina. So they don't even know the difference between male and female. So it's ridiculous. So organisations like this influence sex education in schools, and then you have a lot of third-party providers going into schools, and it's the ongoing situation is that often parents can't even see the materials that are being shared in classrooms. That there's a lady called Claire Page who has a social media profile called No Secret Lesson Plans, and she is still involved in a legal case trying to basically stop these materials from being hidden from parents. So you could have a year 7, 8, 9 child who's being taught about all kinds of sexual pleasure and gender ideology, and parents don't know anything about it.
I think it's dreadful. I'm very familiar with the Brooke industry, whatever. I can't remember. It's called the Brooke. I can't remember the name of it, but I know I've been in a lot of schools while I've been training that use the Brooke technique. I don't know if they still do, but they used to use a traffic light system.
Yes, exactly. So for example, back in, I think it was 2012, one of our former trustees, Sarah Carter, she appeared in front of the Education Select Committee to talk about Brooke and the fact that their traffic light scheme sanctioned underage sex. So how it works, the traffic light tool, it talks about what behaviours are considered to be green, which is healthy and normal health development behaviours. And there is keep an eye, there's a warning sign. And red is make a safeguarding referral. On the traffic light tool under green behaviours, they had penetrative and non sex for 13 to 15-year-olds, which basically effectively says nothing to see. It's perfectly fine as long as they're consenting, which our trustees tweeted out to the Education Select Committee, and Brooke couldn't defend it. So they have since apparently changed it, but they've also made it not available publicly online. You actually have to buy the traffic lights all now. But interestingly, Brooke at that time were also being sponsored by the condom manufacturer Durex. So it's completely wrong that a condom manufacturer is sponsoring a sexual health educator who is contributing to the policy on relationship and sex education in schools. So it's basically, you know what, let's get all the kids under 16 having sex, and then we'll sell more condoms. There's a lot of really dodgy stuff happening.
It is, you know, and I really question. I think the trouble is, I think there's an awful lot of schools and an awful lot of teachers, and I say this even though I'm an educator, who are very, very left-wing, and they come out of university with these dopey ideas where they are not actually looking at the real emotional health of children as well. Because when I've been in schools and I've done stuff on toxic relationships, and you know, 14-year-old boys will, and I said, why do you look at pornography? And they go, because sex education is crap. I said, I know it is. But, you know, and you can't, I get so many emails from parents that say, I'm not even allowed to know what my 6-year-old is being taught. That is appalling. Absolutely appalling. I've had people say, oh, my 5-year-old started school today, and they were told, say their name is Joanne, you know, you might be Joanne, but you might feel like you're John tomorrow, and here's a special toilet for you. And they write, what is going on? I said, you see, if I thought that was going on, I'm sorry, I would take my child out of school. And I think more and more people are going to go to home educators, which then brings on another problem, doesn't it? Because they're not registered.
Yeah, well, this is another issue. We are seeing more and more parents who object to the indoctrination of children in schools. You're saying about 6-year-olds being taught about sex in an inappropriate way. So these sex-positive organisations, they believe that children need to be taught younger and younger about sex, because children are seeing pornography on average age is around 10 or 11 when they first see pornography. So
even 7, I've had even 7.
Yeah, so this is the argument, is that you teach them about it and about healthy pornography before they see inappropriate pornography, but which is ridiculous, because just because one child has been exposed to pornography, it doesn't mean you then expose the rest of the classmates, because this counts as non-contact child abuse. So you need to deal with the one child who's viewed pornography and actually take them out of the situation and talk to their family about the harms of this. And also, we need to crack down on children having unsupervised access to screens and the internet. The problem is, what are their parents doing? Why are children seeing these things that they shouldn't be allowed unsupervised access to the internet? You wouldn't, back in the 90s, when pornography was very much video and, say, top shelf magazines, you wouldn't have let a 10-year-old have free reign in a video shop, would you? Or getting all these magazines. So why let them do it on the smartphones?
And I've seen in schools where 10-year-olds actually do bully each other if they're not going to join their group to watch it. I've also known in schools of 7-year-olds that have watched it. Of course, once they see it, they can't unsee it. And most of it is absolutely violent Andrew Tate stuff. And it's completely unfit for the digestion of people under 16. It's absolutely, and what are kids doing with an iPhone at age 7? It's absolutely bonkers. But I do but this, one of your speakers is right, when the schools are, impartial educators, as he calls them, and I think that's right, are treating this like a harmless treat, like a piece of cake, and it's utterly harmful. And I don't think that parents realise that to get addicted from it, because it raises the dopamine, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's So it's the normalisation of porn that is part of the problem. And you may have seen the MP recently, Samantha Niblett, who's the MP for Derby South, and she's bringing this Summer of Sex campaign. She wants to bring sex toys into a parliamentary debate in September. I know. So
honestly,
her partner, who she's doing this campaign with, is a sex educator called Cindy Gallop. And if you look back at her TED talk of when she launched her website, which is called Make Love Not Porn, she freely admits to watching and enjoying hardcore porn. And her argument is it isn't the porn, it's that it's not ethical when all performers aren't fully consenting. So she thinks as long as those who are performing are really happy and being paid properly in better conditions, that it's perfectly acceptable. So, but we would argue that somebody like that isn't an appropriate individual to be teaching children about sex. And they've openly admitted that they want to reach young children in school and teach them about sexual pleasure, which is not what school should be about.
Absolutely right. Wouldn't it be great if they actually taught the children about respect? They go on about consent, but what about respect? You know, that I have a real thing about that if I don't respect you, whether you say yes or no to me, I'm going to do it anyway because I can. If I don't respect you, I don't give a monkeys. I'm going to do it anyway, you know? I mean, I just think it's just dreadful. And if half of these people knew what they are watching, there is no such thing as soft porn anymore. It's right in there. It really is aggressive. Oral rape, anal rape, vaginal rape. It's absolutely hideous. And you've got 7, 8-year-olds watching it. It's absolutely dreadful. So that is.
I know, but it's.
Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, but it really. I think what people don't realise is that watching porn at that age, and it also applies to older people as well, that it fundamentally alters the brain because it alters your reaction to what you're seeing. And a lot of young men have reported that they start out watching perhaps soft porn, but that doesn't turn them on. So they then have to watch increasingly extreme pornography, which gets to the point where it's incredibly violent. And I suppose it's like a drug that you might start out smoking cannabis and then it doesn't get you high. And then so you end up on harder and harder drugs in order to get the high. And it's a similar reaction in the brain that when they're watching porn, they don't get a dopamine fix unless they're watching more and more extreme scenarios. And then that has a knock-on effect in terms of relationships because they can't have healthy sexual relationships in reality. So, and this is impacting on a whole generation of young people. So we really do need to tackle it because what's going to happen to the future adults who are unable to form healthy relationships and have families.
Absolutely. And I mean, there is I don't know if you've seen it on YouTube. There's it was based 3 neuroscientists. It's an American thing called Raised on Porn. And it's on YouTube. And it's about a guy, he's an adult, who got more, because the dopamine fix is, as you say, like a drug. You want more of it, don't you? You know, the dopamine level comes down, you get fuzzy, foggy brain. So you watch it again. And then your dopamine receptors burn out. Then you have erectile dysfunction. And that is a permanent thing that can't be fixed. And as you say, you're looking at relationships that are not based on love and intimacy. Because in the making love bit, that's what children don't understand. It's not a mechanical thing, sex, is it? And that's what they're thinking. It is about mutual thinking and thoughts and humor and interest. All that comes into the realm of intimacy, doesn't it? And they don't talk about that.
No, absolutely not. There's just such a focus on sexual pleasure and a promotion of casual sex as being healthy, without talking about the emotional side of it.
That's right. So
and it's sorry, it's a known thing that actually having more and more casual sex and broken relationships very much affects young women. And when we're seeing the massive increase of depression and anxiety in young women between the age of 16 and 30, there have been papers done that the more sexual partners they've had at a young age, the more depressed they are, and the more likely they are to go on antidepressants. So we're not doing young women any favors by saying that sexual promiscuity is a good thing and a healthy thing. It's really not.
It's not, and I think they are also then, like, there's low esteem, in fact, in all of that, isn't there? There's sort of self-loathing because they didn't say no and all of that. I mean, I'm glad I was born in the era I was, quite honestly. I really am. But I mean, moving on from that, I find interesting. Oh, sorry, was there something else you wanted to say about that? No?
No, that's fine. I was just happy to move on. Just to say that at the conference, we are going to be talking more about this, because we've got two authors, Jo Bartosh, who's a journalist, and her co-author, Rob Jessel, have written a book called Pornography, which looks at the harms of porn and how it's taken over society. And they're going to be discussing their book at the conference. So it's definitely one not to miss.
Can I just ask, so does the Family Education Trust, do you actually go into schools, or do you write the policies and the lobbying and all that, or are you actual educators yourselves?
No, we don't go into schools, and we're not educators, but we aim to actually research what is the best way to educate children about sexual relationships. We look at family structure and marriage and all the things going on in society that impact on family life and the best outcomes for children. And part of that research encompasses sexual behaviour. So our aim is to influence policy and also to educate people about the research areas that we look into. So if parents contact us, we're very happy to write letters or to try to intervene if their child's in a school where they're in a difficult situation about sexual health materials and things like that. And we are happy to give advice, but we don't actually particularly go into schools.
But I think parents need that. They need what you're doing, because not every parent knows how, even human beings, not every human being knows how to complain and knows how to write that very clever letter, or knows the process, do they, in a school? Do I go to the governors? Do I go to the head teacher? Do I go to the local authority? And, to be fair, I mean, I do, because I've been in that situation. So I've helped people write letters before, but I think what you're offering is so good, that sort of like grounded view where you can advise. I think that's really, really worthwhile. Really good, really good. There's something else I want to move on to now, which I find I am really wound up about. The family policy and the womb. Lois McClatchy Miller is going to discuss, and I absolutely, the rights of the unborn child and the importance of mothers against a backdrop of human rights law. Now, I have been deeply upset, furious even, about the right to abort your child at 40 weeks. Am I wrong?
Yeah. No, you're not wrong. It's just been passed in Parliament that they have decriminalised effectively abortion up to birth, because women who abort their own babies will no longer be held criminally responsible. So that's at any point up to birth. So if a woman didn't want to have the baby, cause a miscarriage or abort the baby, and there would be no criminal investigation. Which basically means that the unborn babies have no rights anymore, which we think is really appalling.
I think it's absolute. It is child abuse. It's murder, in my view. Now, I mean, I was brought up a Catholic, and I don't consider myself a Catholic now, but I do have an absolute belief in life. My feeling is, and I might be wrong, that, and I had this discussion with my daughter when I was away on holiday, and he's a barrister, my son-in-law. So, trying to have a discussion with him is like pulling teeth, It's like. I said, if you didn't want a baby, if you've been raped or there's something not right with the baby and you have the scan or whatever, you have plenty of time to have, have that aborted if you wanted to. But at full term, that I think is appalling. I mean, a second later, it gets born. That's infanticide. That's murder. And do the babies not have any rights anymore? You've frozen. Oh, you're frozen. Hello? Are you frozen? Oh, are you there, Lucy?
Yeah, I lost you.
Oh, there you are. Carry on. So there's no rights for the unborn baby now at 40 weeks then? I mean, it's dreadful.
No, it just seems wrong, because the pro-abortion lobby have argued that women are somehow victims all the way through being pregnant, and that it implies almost that they're not in their right mind. Whereas there've been several very well documented cases where women have purposely aborted the baby late term in order to avoid detection. So there was, back in 2012, there was a lady in Yorkshire called Sarah Catt, and she already had 3 children, and she had I think she'd separated from her husband and had an affair and got pregnant, and then had got back together with her husband and didn't want him to find out that she was pregnant. So she aborted the baby at, I think it was about 37 weeks, and basically gave birth to a stillbirth baby, because she'd lied to get hold of the pills by post, so abortion pills by post, and had taken them, and so it had killed the baby, and then she gave birth to the baby. So she went to prison, quite rightly, because as far as I'm concerned, that's murder.
Me too.
But under this new law, she will, I believe, she will be pardoned and have that completely taken off her, because she doesn't have a criminal record. And any other woman that's done similar will also have their records expunged. And so if that happens in the future, there will be no investigation. So yeah, it allows for people to murder late-term babies, and there be no consequences.
I mean, the baby can hear, the baby can, all its little fingers are moving, everything. I just find it, I mean, I've had 4 children. I had twins as well. I can't imagine. And I had a 5-month-old, the baby was 5 months when gestation, when I lost one of them. So I had 4 miscarriages. But, I mean, when you give birth, how on earth can you, without any help, push out a dead baby that's almost 7-8 pounds in weight? And who does all the other stuff, like cutting the cord, and who does that?
No, I know, it's so horrible, and the way that we're going, because the British Pregnancy Advisory Service, they want to go one step further than has just happened this week in the law. They want to decriminalise all abortion. So at the moment, the law says that a woman who ends her own pregnancy won't be investigated by the police, but they want to make it further so that any abortion clinic that offers a full-term abortion at any point up to birth will not be prosecuted. So it will not be a criminal offence. Whereas we've seen in other countries, there was an investigation recently by an American organization called Live Action, and they went to an illegal abortion clinic in one of the American states, and they found a back room full of the remains of dead full-term babies. There was like, loads of them, just in pieces. It's awful. And then on actually doing a post-mortem, they'd found that more than one or two of them had actually breathed at birth, so they'd just been left to die. But once you regard an unborn baby as not worthy of life, you're only a short step away from what other countries have called post-birth abortion, which is going down the route of Nazism, because if a baby's born with disability or Down syndrome or something like that, and they haven't realised before they were born, they could say, oh, well, actually the kindest thing to do to euthanize them at birth. And that is really, we're not far off that point, because obviously the pro-assisted dying lobby is still pushing that. And when you combine the two, the decriminalisation of abortion and the state-sanctioned euthanasia, that's the way that we're going. So it's really important that people fight back against it.
Good Lord. Well, I wrote to the House of Lords, and I wrote to my MP, and when I had this discussion with my son-in-law, he said, yes, but it's taking the criminalisation bit out. I said, but it is criminal. You are killing a newborn baby. You're a father of 2 kids. Can you remember what they looked like when they were born? I said, they didn't just come alive when they were born. They were already alive. And I cannot, Lucy, get my head around anyone.
I know, and I find it extremely hypocritical and a huge level of sort of society-wide cognitive dissonance that there's so much outrage about the premature babies that were allegedly killed by Lucy Letby.
Yes.
And these were 22, 23 weekers. And so if they were babies that sorry, it's my daughter standing outside and pulling faces at me, which is not really very helpful. Sorry.
Sorry, Lucy Letby, you were saying.
So, but if you're actually week-old premature baby, how is it not murder when it's a 39-week-old baby that's killed in the womb just because the mother suddenly decides she doesn't want it? How is there any difference? I don't understand that.
I agree, and I think that, I do feel sorry for the mothers and fathers of those babies. I still question that whether Lucy Letby was guilty or not. I've read so much evidence and stuff behind it that was not brought forward, and I hope it does. And I know David Davis, I've met him, and I hope it does get be heard. But the people I feel so sorry for are the parents. I mean, here we go again.
I know.
I also
I
feel sorry for her.
It's awful, but it does beg the question of what's going on in these hospitals, because we know that more than half of maternity units have been basically ruled as being unsafe by the Quality Care Commission. Lack of facilities, dirty facilities, lack of trained staff, understaffed, underfunded. So there's definitely something going wrong in the NHS maternity services. I mean, let's face it, a lot of them can't even say what a woman is. They've taken mother out of a lot of the language around maternity services. So there's so you do wonder what on earth's going on in the NHS.
I think it's just so awful. You can almost feel that. I mean, I adore being a mum, and I went back to work and stuff like that. And I adore being a mum, but I can almost feel that there's going to be this eradication of the importance of being a mum, and that people don't think about it anymore. It's so important, and you can learn so much from nature. I mean, nature, people go on about people being animals. No, animals don't behave like this. Animals, they mourn, don't they? You see elephants, baby elephants that maybe die, the mothers in mourning. You see real love coming from animals regarding their young. And there's so much we could learn from that, because I think we're losing that. We're losing all sense of spirituality and why we're on this planet. And I think it's becoming a dreadfully secular society with no heart and soul. I mean, that's what my program's and I do feel,
I agree.
I'm not some Bible basher, but I mean, they go on about, you see, this is another, isn't it? This I've just come to mind now. This is another hypocritical thing that they, they're saying this, and yet in the other breath, they're saying, our population's coming down. What if you're going to do? Why can't these people? Why couldn't you have a baby and have it adopted?
I know. Well, if you look at the abortion statistics, which are rising year on year, I think last year that something like one in 3 or 4 of all pregnancies were aborted, and then you look at the declining population and the declining birth rate, because at the moment in the UK, the birth rate is lower than the race rate. So our population will increasingly age, and young people aren't having babies. So it is a huge problem. We do need people to be having babies to be able to fund the country. But if all of the babies that were aborted had been born, we wouldn't have a fertility crisis.
Well, exactly right. And that's why you've done this, and yet you're talking about that. You can't have the penny and the bun. You got, they're two opposing arguments, aren't they? And if that baby could have been adopted, there's so many people that want to adopt babies, and that's another thing you must see again. Also, why have we lost the ability to adopt a baby? Why does a baby have to go through 5 or 6 foster carers before it's adopted at 2 years old? By which time that child has been emotionally harmed, not by nasty foster carers, but because the trauma when they are taken away from their natural mother is real. And then they have to go, they're taken from one, where a bond, and then they go to another. No wonder we've got attachment disorder in this country. Because that baby,
I know, it doesn't
attach.
Doesn't really make much sense, does it?
I despair, and you must get very desperation in your job, I would think, and frustration. I couldn't do your job. It would drive me mad. So let's move on now. Another thing. So that is also going to be discussed, isn't it, at your conference?
Yes.
So, that's going to be, And now we've got family friendly or anti-family. Lord Stuart Jackson is going to be talking about now how government policy affects the family, the well-being of children, and the impact on society. Well, frankly, I think it sucks. Would you agree? I mean, I don't.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. So one of the big issues that we're really trying to persuade the government against at the moment is this push for all mothers to go back out to work.
Yes.
And to put babies as young as 9 months into full-time nursery, because it's such a short-sighted policy, because it's not seeing the importance of mothers and the impact that mothers have on their children. And they're not seeing the cause of attachment disorder.
Yes,
is actually directly correlated with the increase in adolescents with anxiety, depression, and other emotional and behavioural disorders. I don't know if you saw, there was a report out this week by Zurich Insurance, and they've said that currently more than half, so 51% of 15 to 19-year-olds now have a diagnosed mental health or behavioural issue such as anxiety, depression, ADHD, and they reckon that if the diagnosis rate carries on as it is now, by 2030, they reckon that 64% of this age group will have a diagnosed mental health issue, which is ridiculous.
That doesn't surprise me, because it's almost like a communist state where you have your baby, now you go back to work. It's like living in China. But then you see, I am not a political animal, but you've got a prime minister here who is atheist, and the godlessness of that man is evident, and the policies and the things that are coming out, it is totally godless to actually, be able to kill a baby at 9 months, and to push parents to go back to work. And some mothers don't want to, and feel embarrassed or feel guilty if they don't. And I think it's dreadful, because as I say, that I know it, the trauma of a child being separated from its mother, those first 3 years, I know it, are critical to how you then grow up. So
absolutely critical for their emotional well-being when they become teenagers.
Exactly.
And also
it's coming back to bite them in the bum now, because of what happened 15 years ago. We're being pushed to go back to work.
Yes, exactly that. So there's no understanding of early childhood development in this government. Not just this government, but actually the previous Conservative government as well. There was the push on state-funded childcare.
I quite agree with you.
And
when you look at this, that was on the Tories' watch. That one, unprotected.
Absolutely.
That was Conservative.
So it's separating mothers from their babies, which is a policy that shouldn't be happening. It's also short-term thinking, because they're thinking, well, actually, the mother's an economic unit that's earning tax. The nursery worker is an economic unit earning tax, and they're thinking it's all about GDP. But then actually, they need to be looking forward to 15 years later. If all these children have got anxiety disorder, and they're claiming PIP payments because they've got ADHD or something like that, then that is much worse for the economy, to have a whole generation of young people that are unable to work because of their mental health. So we need to be looking at other countries that do it better. So Finland, for example, they do it better, that mothers are entitled to be off for 3 years, and they can go back to the same job than before they were off for maternity leave, so they can have that 3-year period. And also Hungary does it better. There is a payment. So for example, instead of getting nursery vouchers, you could have cash, and then the mums or dads that want to stay at home could actually have those vouchers in the form of cash to enable one partner not to work, to actually look after their children, which makes a lot more sense.
It does make much more sense, because as you say, that these people are not thinking outside the box. They're not looking at the cause. All they want to do is put a plaster on top, and so we're just getting more pills. See, I have this thing, going back to my teaching career, that a lot of ADHD children I saw, I think it was PTSD, post-traumatic stress. I think they had the anxiety and everything else, and the inability to sit still. All of that was because of the situation at home and the dumping of one baby minder to another. People have no idea. They do not study, as you rightly say, the brain of the early years. Those first 3 years are critical to how you parent and your being there. Absolutely right. I mean, honestly. So I just want to end on a final one, which is the Miriam Cates one. I mean, she's a wonderful person. Good for you for getting her on.
Yeah.
We'll have to end, because we've been banging on too much, but I've loved it, because it's nice to talk to somebody who understands all the policies. So they're going to be looking at a housing policy and construction. This is interesting. How it's impacting the fertility crisis and the population decline.
That we've got coming up. Yeah. So, so it's a new report by a researcher called Lyman Sturmer, and Miriam Cates has kindly done the forward for the report for us. So it's talking about how housing policy does not reflect what people want in terms of being in a situation where they want to have children. So if you're throwing up new housing developments and a lot of them are just one-bedroom flats,
right,
you're not going to want to raise a family in a one-bedroom flat. So when people were surveyed, they said what they want is a 3-bedroom house with a garden space, with an outside space. So actually, we need to be building much more friendly housing developments that actually promote community and families, rather than just flinging up a whole high-rise block or flats where they're just one bedrooms that are for sale for people with no intention of having a family.
yeah.
So again, it's another short-sighted policy.
Yeah, I get that now. I can, because when I read that, I thought, well, that's weird. Now I can understand what you're saying. So honestly, Lucy, I went, so do you have any hope at the end of this? Because it sounds all depressing regarding the family. Is there hope on the horizon?
Well, I think the hope is that we're looking forward to the next government after the general election, that hopefully people will see sense and get rid of the current government that aren't really doing the country very much good. And whoever decides, whoever is in, whether that's Reform or the Lib Dems or the Conservatives, whoever actually gets their act together and gets the most votes at the next election, we're trying to work with them about family policy and give them the research to say, well, actually, this is what you should be doing in terms of family policy. This is what is going to benefit children and society and help the promotion of healthy families and marriage. Because at the end of the day, research shows that children do best when they're raised by their biological mother and father within a healthy and stable marriage, because marriage still makes a difference in terms of relationship stability. And so we need to have family policy that promotes marriage in terms of stable families.
It's a good idea that you're working with the next people, hopefully. Let's just hope and pray it's not the Green Party.
Amen to that.
On that note, before we get into a political discussion and actually rock our sides with laughter and the quality of the Green MPs, Lucy, I don't know how you do the work you do. I would be wanting to throw policies down onto the River Thames, but thank you for all the good that you're doing for the next generation, and let's hope it's not ruined beyond repair. So I thank you enormously, and keep up the good work, Lucy.
Thank you for having me on.
I know how busy you are, and that's not surprising. So thank you very much. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye. Take care. Bye. So that was the lovely Lucy Marsh, doing great work with the Family Education Trust, and good on her. And how great it is to see a young person, obviously with a young family, because a little girl was making faces through the glass, that there is a young person out there with some common sense. So I thank you enormously, so she can get back to work. And this is Marilyn Hawes from Unprecedented TV with Heart and Soul, saying goodbye and enjoy the sunshine. It's looking great. And thank you again. See you next week. And then the music starts.
Yeah.
She'll edit that. So, well, that was good. Thank you. It was, I mean, I'm so pleased that I keep thinking, am I just becoming a grumpy old woman?
Oh, no, you're not. Yeah, you're not. There's a lot of people that think the same way. I just think that people are afraid to say it. I have loads of conversations with people, and 99% of people agree with what we're saying, but they're just worried about getting cancelled. But you can't cancel everybody.
No, I know it's dreadful, isn't it? I do feel it. I really honestly do feel it's becoming a Marxist state. I really do, where you can't I just feel we've all been ring fenced not to be able to have free speech. I mean, when he came into power, I've been doing this job for 20 odd years, right? And it's the first time I felt I needed to become a member of the Free Speech Union.
Yeah, no, I think I'm going to join as well.
And
It's just dreadful.
you know,
I've
not expensive.
never disliked a Prime Minister this much.
I hate this man. I cannot stand him. I just think all he wants to do is destroy the country. That is his aim. And it really upsets me. But to have somebody young like you with a young family that you think, crikey, thank goodness there is someone out there fighting and keeping it going. So I genuinely mean it, Lucy. Thank you. And thank you so much for your time.
So are you able to come to the conference? We'd love to have you on.
Sorry?
Are you able to come to the conference?
When is it again?
16th of May.
The trouble is, it's a Saturday. Can I watch it online? Can we watch it online?
We will record the speakers, and they'll be available at YouTube at some point. But it's not going to be streamed live. It'll just be it'll be recorded.
I'd like to come, but the trouble is, my husband, on top of everything else, my husband has Lewy body dementia with Parkinson's. He's 81, and it's really. I mean, I did go away to see my daughter because I was desperate for a break, but it was like an army trying to organise him. Do you know what I mean? It's like, but I'd love to, please send me the speakers. I'd love to hear what they say, because I can promote that through my social media as well for you. And so you'll get this, and she will edit out all the glitches where you were frozen. So, you know, it so needs to be said. You so need to be out there. And I mean, I just remembered today, I thought, I'm sure I've got this book. And I was horrified when I read it. And nothing has changed. This was on the Conservatives' watch.
Yeah, well, we are actually in the process of updating it. We've got a researcher who's working on it. So we're going to do an unprotected part 2, which will include much more up-to-date statistics and also the transgender stuff. Yes, because that is also a huge safeguarding problem. So that's going to be in it as well.
Record, because I know we're being recorded, but it won't go out there.
Yeah.
I do not believe that in nearly every classroom in a school, regardless of age, there is somebody that wants to transgender. I don't believe it. I think it's a mental health.
It's social contagion.
I think
it really is, and also it's also the teaching. If they're teaching children that there's all these different genders, and then they're going to want to do it. It's because it's generally autistic children, or children that go a little bit against the grain.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, they feel like they don't fit in.
But I've met parents who will say to me, "Oh, my child's transgender," and I just say, "Oh, you poor thing."
Yeah. Well, it's almost become like social currency, especially in Hollywood. Celebrities, it's like the latest thing to have, having a transgender child. So stupid.
It's ridiculous. I thank God for your common sense, Lucy. Honestly, I've now got to go off to the day centre to get my husband. So you have a great weekend. Are you doing anything?
You too. Yeah, I'm going to see some friends today. So having like a girls' night.
You have a good time. And as soon as this is done, I'll send it to you. It might take a few days because we're doing. I do a lot of work with Mike Graham as well. He used to be on Talk TV, and he's now got his own show. When he's hiring Shepherd's Bush, and I'm on stage with him and everything. So there's a heck of a lot to do to organise that. But you know, it will get done. Don't you worry. And thank you again. Thank you again.
Lovely to meet you.
When that second book comes out, can you let me know, please?
Of course, yes, we'll do. Yes,
thank you.
Be later this year.
Thank you. All right then, Lucy.
All right. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye 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 bye.